Hi, welcome back. The next step in Part 3 is to write an introduction paragraph for your essay. The purpose of an introduction is to 1. Introduce your topic, 2. Introduce your thesis, and 3. Intrigue your reader to continue reading. Now, introducing your topic and thesis is the easy part. The real challenge in writing a good introduction is to intrigue your readers to continue reading. So how do we do this exactly? Well, good writers have learned a few tricks over the years to engage their readers in that first paragraph and encourage them to read more. Some of these tricks include using the introduction to tell a story, adding a quote or quoted passage in the paragraph, showing your credibility as an expert on the subject, using the introduction to ask your reader a question. Let's take a look at a few examples. In the Anna Lappé essay, the author begins her essay by describing a particular event and providing some details about what happened. This is a good example of an introduction that tells a story. In the same paragraph, Lappé also includes a quoted phrase, which is another good technique for engaging your readers. In the Sherry Turkle essay, the author validates her expertise on the subject by pointing out the research she's completed over the last 15 years. This is a good example of an introduction that shows credibility. Here's an introduction to an essay I read recently by Sugata Mitra. This is a good example of an introduction paragraph that asks the reader a question. In the Part 3 worksheet, be sure to indicate which type of introduction you would like to use with your essay. Next, write your introduction paragraph in the space provided. Keep in mind that your introduction paragraph should be approximately 4 to 6 sentences long, and your thesis statement should be the last sentence of the paragraph. The grammar workshop for this week is all about something called parallelism. Now, don't let the word scare you. This is just a fancy name for making your sentences sound more balanced and organized. Some of the sentences you'll write in a paragraph might include what's called a series of items, where each item is separated by a comma. For example, the ball rolled across the floor, over the rug, and down the steps. The items in the series are across the floor, over the rug, down the steps. In grammatical terms, this sentence is parallel, and that's because each item in the series has a similar structure that uses prepositions. Now, if you remember from grammar school, a preposition is a word that describes a location. Notice the prepositions used in this sentence: across, over, down. The consistency here helps keep the structure of the sentence parallel. Now let's take a look at what can go wrong when you break that consistency and the sentence is no longer parallel. The ball rolled across the floor, the rug, going down the steps. Notice how this sentence sounds awkward and clunky. That's because the sentence is no longer parallel. Can you spot where the problem is? Sometimes the error can be a little tricky to see. That's why I like to use this simple method for identifying faulty parallelism in a sentence. First, identify the leading phrase of the sentence. In this example, the leading phrase is "the ball rolled." Now place the sentence lead in front of each item and read the combined phrases together, like this. The ball rolled across the floor. The ball rolled the rug. The ball rolled going down the steps. Do some of these phrases sound awkward to you? If this had been a parallel sentence, each of these phrases would have sounded much like a complete sentence. Because they don't, this tells us that some of the items may need to be changed. In this example, the first item sounds fine to me. However, the second and third items do not. And that's because they're missing a preposition. So let's rewrite the phrases using prepositions and see how they sound. The ball rolled across the floor. The ball rolled over the rug. The ball rolled down the steps. That sounds much better. Now let's put the sentence back together and see how it sounds. The ball rolled across the floor, over the rug, and down the steps. Another common error in parallelism is to write items that use inconsistent tense. That means some of the words in this series might refer to the past, while others refer to the present or future. For example, last year Andy moved to Marshalltown, enrolls in school, and starts a new job. Can you spot the problem here? If we read the sentence lead with each item, it's a little easier to identify the inconsistency. Last year Andy moved to Marshalltown. Last year Andy enrolls in school. Last year Andy starts a new job. Notice how some of the phrases are referring to both the past and the present. That's an error in parallelism, which is fairly easy to fix simply by changing the tense so everything matches. Last year Andy moved to Marshalltown. Last year Andy enrolled in school. Last year Andy started a new job. Now let's put the sentence back together. Last year Andy moved to Marshalltown, enrolled in school, and started a new job. Another way to create parallelism in a sentence is to be consistent in the use of gerunds. Again, if you remember from grammar school, a gerund is the ing that comes at the end of a word, like walking, talking, sleeping, thinking. In the next example, let's see if we can correct an error in parallelism by using the gerund. This summer Andy is playing baseball, works at Walmart, and taking 2 classes. Just as we did earlier, let's identify the sentence lead and then pair it up with each item to see how it sounds. This summer Andy is playing baseball. This summer Andy works at Walmart. This summer Andy is taking 2 classes. Notice how the first and last examples sound fine, but the second example, this summer Andy works at Walmart, sounds awkward and broken. We can easily correct this parallelism error simply by adding a gerund, like this. This summer Andy is working at Walmart. Now let's put the sentence back together. This summer Andy is playing baseball, working at Walmart, and taking 2 classes. That's much better. The worksheet I've provided you in this week's module will give you a chance to practice identifying errors in parallelism and then use the techniques I've just described to correct the problem. So that's it for this week. If you have any questions about the assignment, please contact me through the Angel Course email. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time.